Welcome back to The Explainer. So today we're unpacking some seriously fascinating source material that tackles a pretty harsh reality we all have to face at some point, surviving a bad economy. But look, we're not just talking about barely scraping by here. We're talking about surviving through purpose-driven, truly influential leadership. Whether you're leading a massive organization right now, or you're just trying to navigate your own career path, these concepts are going to completely reframe how you think about value and resilience. Let's get into it.
I want you to really stop and think about this for a second. When the economy just completely takes a nosedive, right? Budgets freeze, companies start laying off workers, who are the people that absolutely survive? It's a visceral, kind of uncomfortable question, to be honest. But answering it honestly, that is the very first step toward bulletproofing your career. Okay, let's map out where we're going today. We're going to start with the rule for market survival, then look at becoming a truly necessary entity. From there, we'll explore the multiplication of wisdom and courage, how to polish your own unique weapon, and finally, making that big leap from private to public happiness. So, part one, the rule for market survival. We have to kick things off by acknowledging a pretty uncompromising reality. The market? It doesn't care about our feelings. It only cares about value.
Think about a boom economy. Budgets are loose, right? Products honestly sell regardless of absolute quality. Growth feels easy, and let's face it, inefficiencies are super easy to hide. But in a recession, it's a whole different ballgame. The market engages in strict, ruthless selection. People literally stop buying out of habit. To survive here, a business, or honestly an individual, has to definitively prove their necessity, all while figuring out how to dramatically lower costs. That margin for error, poof, it completely disappears.
So what do you actually do when the going gets tough? Well, our source material provides some incredibly practical, hard-hitting advice for these downturns, framing it as essential self-help effort. It all comes down to a relentless focus on cost and efficiency. You've got to lower unit prices, aggressively eliminate waste, maximize quality with minimal staff, and, this is a big one, ensure absolutely zero defective products. A single defect isn't just a tiny mistake, it's a breach of trust you literally cannot afford when times are tight.
Moving on to Section 2, becoming a necessary entity. Because look, cost-cutting and efficiency, those are great defensive maneuvers, but they just aren't enough on their own. You have to pivot. You have to become fundamentally indispensable.
I want this question to really pierce through the noise of your day for a minute. Are you truly a necessary person to your company? If your role vanished tomorrow, would the whole system collapse, or would it just hum along without you? Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow. But evaluating your true objective worth is exactly what this source material demands we do. Just keeping a seat warm or having a decent product simply isn't enough anymore. The text is super clear here. You must explain the necessity and provide what people actually want. You have to actively prove your added value to the buyer or your employer day in and day out. Think about it. People don't retain employees just because they exist, right? They keep them because they fill a vital, absolutely unignorable need.
So the ultimate unbending rule to avoid being weeded out by the market? It's actually not some complex financial trick. It is simply this: becoming a necessary company or a necessary human being. That's it. When you're necessary, you aren't just surviving the storm, you're the anchor holding everything else in place.
All right, Section 3, the multiplication of wisdom and courage. We're zooming out now, moving from micro-level business tactics to the macro level of profound leadership. How do you actually become that necessary leader? Well, the text argues it requires multiplying two very specific traits.
First up is wisdom. And we're not just talking about raw, book-smarts intelligence here. It's the essential knowledge and experience required to find the correct direction and avoid failure. Think of wisdom like the steering wheel of a ship. It's that calculated understanding that lets you spot the icebergs from a mile away and chart a prosperous course.
Next, we have courage. The text defines this as the passion and primary source of action that really drives a leader forward, totally unfettered by the fear of failure. So, if wisdom is the steering wheel, courage is absolutely the engine. It's that raw, kinetic energy propelling you into the unknown. But an engine without a steering wheel? Yeah, that's incredibly dangerous.
See, passion without knowledge is a huge liability. Courage without wisdom, that is just reckless bravado. If you charge forward without experience, you risk destroying yourself and literally everyone around you. But, and this is a massive core insight from our source, when you successfully combine the two, when wisdom directs courage, it creates what the text calls justice. True, righteous leadership requires both.
the wisdom to know the right way, and the courage to actually go that way.
Which brings us to Section 4, polishing your own weapon. So how do we actually develop these virtues into market-ready skills? How do we make ourselves undeniably necessary?
The source shares this incredibly fascinating historical anecdote about Sakamoto Ryoma. Now, if you don't know him, he was a wildly influential figure who helped overthrow the Japanese shogunate. But here's the thing. Ryoma didn't start out as some grand political visionary. Not at all. He started by mastering the sword. He polished a single, distinct weapon, his swordsmanship, and that gave him the foundational discipline and reputation he needed to later wield massive national influence. He built a deep core competency first.
We can actually break this historical metaphor down into steps you can use right now. Step 1. Pick a specific niche. Seriously, don't try to be everything to everyone right out of the gate. Step 2. Master it. Become undeniably excellent and build a rock-solid reputation in that one area. And finally, Step 3. Expand your impact. Once you've got that deep foundation, your sword, so to speak, you can leverage it to lead in much broader, more complex arenas.
And that leads us perfectly into our final section, from private to public happiness. We've talked about survival, indispensability, and building your skills. Now we reach the absolute highest level of the author's leadership philosophy. The text draws a huge contrast here. Private happiness is defined by a self-serving mindset. It's all about self-preservation, retreating into your own little world and hiding from the storms of the market. It's comfortable, sure, but it's small. On the flip side, you have public happiness. This is the noble, outward-facing goal of true leadership. It's about taking that polished weapon of yours and applying it for the greatest good of the many. It's stepping out into the storm to literally build a shelter for others.
Now, I want to point out that the source has a very nuanced view of this balance. True leadership definitely requires personal peace and quiet reflection so you can maintain your sanity and sharpen your wisdom. But you can't stay hidden in that quiet forever. A true leader must eventually step into the public arena and bravely pioneer that public happiness, fighting for the well-being of their organization, their team, and society as a whole. Which brings us to what I think is one of the most powerful paradoxes in this entire text. As long as you are only practicing self-preservation, private happiness will absolutely never visit you. Let that sink in. If you spend all your energy just selfishly guarding your own peace, you basically guarantee you're going to lose it. True fulfillment, it only really comes when you turn your focus outward and use your talents to create value for others. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one really provocative question. What is the greatest weapon you have to serve the world? Look, surviving the toughest economies isn't just about cutting costs. It's about becoming completely indispensable. It's about combining wisdom and courage to create justice, mastering your specific niche, and pioneering public happiness. So take a hard look at your own skills. What is your sword? And how are you going to use it to lead? Think on that for a bit, and we'll catch you in the next explainer.